Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about the build for Thresh and his itemization as well as runes. So let's get started with the starting items. Thresh is actually good with both health starting items. The reason why you go the health ones is because Thresh can be a little bit squishy and needs the extra survivability to be able to trade aggressively. So here's how I decide to pick each one. Shoulder guards, so this is the 80 support item. It benefits from Thresh's E passive, which gives him extra 80 ratio on autos. This is good against melee matchups where you can harass them constantly with the ranged autos and then flay them back when they try to engage you. Examples of this kind of matchup is Thresh versus Leona and Alistair. Next up is Relic Shield. Relic Shield is the AP support item, so it benefits a lot from Thresh's high AP ratios, especially after his most recent buffs. Thresh Q has a 98% AP ratio, E has a 70% AP ratio, and R is 100%. So it's really good for bursting down squishy range supports. Thresh is definitely a champion that likes to ward level 1 and switch to sweeper. The reason why you do this is for bush control and to make sure you aren't spotted on roams. So now we're going to talk about first base. Typically on first base on Thresh, you want to get boots and tier 2 boots as fast as possible. There's a couple reasons why boots is extra good on Thresh versus other champions. For one, his kit is very good at roaming and can easily set up his team for kills in small skirmishes. Secondly, you want to be able to run faster than the opponent so that you can walk up and flay them rather than having to coin flip a hook. And three, Lantern lets you move people further forward or backwards depending on your movement speed, which can be good for saving people or helping with tempo. I would say Thresh's two best boots options are Lucidity boots and Mobility boots. Lucidity boots is preferred most games because Thresh makes great use of ability haste, with all of his spells having a long cooldown at early ranks. Getting the summoner's spell cooldowns low is good as well because Thresh's flash is good for setting up easy picks with flash flay or even lanterning in the jungler with flash for like a gank or something. Next up is Moby Boots. Moby Boots are good for games with very volatile laner or jungler matchups that can easily be swung with a little bit of help or intervention. Examples of this are like melee matchups top or mid that need to fight to contest CS. So think like Aurelia versus Renekton or something like that. This allows you to move around the map quickly to help these matchups get the small difference that they need to swing the matchup in their favor. Other times to go mobiles is when you are losing bot lane, but your team is winning. Then you can play to surf the map and help the rest of the team that way. Other boots options to consider are Swifties. I would only really get Swifties if you have a 600 gold back and you can't afford Lucidity boots. I think even factoring in slows, the other two boots should be better on Thresh. For tabbies and treads, like I would only go tabbies against full AD, and I would only go treads against full AP. What I also want to talk about is pink wards. I think on Thresh you should be buying pink wards all game. Since you don't scale as well with items, it's important to contribute to the team by controlling the map and denying enemy vision to create picks and create advantages that way for your team. Next up, we're going to be talking about mythics. So mythic items are a bit tough for Thresh because he doesn't really have one that fits his kind of unique kit. So I'm going to talk about his three usable options, and all are just okay on him. First off, we're going to talk about Locket. You can't go wrong with Locket. It gives resist to your team and a shield for fights. It's a solid choice for peeling, especially against dive teams. Next up is Even Shroud. So Even Shroud increases damage on targets that you hook or flay. Typically, this item is better when you are snowballing since your team doesn't need as many defensive tools. Last item choice is Shrelia's. So the Shrelia's active is really good for starting fights that look good for your team and disengaging fights that look bad. It's a good item, especially if your team is constantly looking for a hard engage, but just note that you'll be a little bit squishier because of it. Now let's talk about mid to late game item choices. The key thing to note is that on Thresh, you just really want ability haste. Like Thresh loves to be able to spam his spells off cooldown. So we're first going to talk about Vigilant Wardstone. I pretty much go this every time I can on Thresh. It gives him everything he wants. It gives him 80 AP, HP, haste, and he can use all of them. It's also cheap. It only costs 1100 gold, and it gives you extra ward slots. Again, vision control, very important on Thresh. I usually buy this as I'm getting close to level 13 so I can get the upgraded effect. So we talked about how Thresh likes ability haste. So most of his items will actually build out of the Kindle Gem component. It's just convenient to buy off a late game support salary, which is pretty low. So first we're going to talk about Zeke's Convergence. You are going to want to buy this if your carry is an auto attacker and you want him to deal more damage. Next up is Knight's Vow. This item you want to put on your team's primary carry to heal off the damage they deal and redirect some of that damage that they take onto yourself. This is especially a good item for peeling your carry from assassins. Last up is Redemption. This is just a generically good item. You typically want to build Redemption if the fights are slower, because then the heal has time to drop and turn around the fight. If the fights are happening too fast, Redemption can be hard to use and sometimes won't get good value. So next up, we're going to be talking about runes. Yeah, so I'm going to pull them up right now. All right, so this is going to be your standard Thresh rune page. So let's talk about it really quick. So the Glacial Augment is going to be nice for, it's the best rune for kill pressure. It makes it really easy to land hook after Flay because of the slow. And it's especially good against immobile champions that can't really walk out of the slow zone easily. In terms of this next tree, between Hex Flash and Stopwatch, I think it's pretty situational. I would say Hex Flash requires a bit more creativity. If you take Hex Flash, you definitely want to look to trade flashes early and then use the Hex Flash to pressure the kill. With Stopwatch, it's more of a defensive option. You're looking to blow cooldowns, important cooldowns with it. I especially like to take Stopwatch against Nautilus matchups specifically to kind of soak up the ulti. For these, the third line, I think between Biscuits and DMAT, Biscuits is just always solid. Thresh actually does have a little bit of mana problems, especially since you're spamming spells all the time. And it's good to just like pop a Biscuit while you're doing an all-in. Whereas DMAT, if you think the lane is going to be really tough and it'll probably hurt you a lot to go for the cannon for the last hit, it's not bad to go DMAT, and you can DMAT the cannon to save HP and maybe even push in the cannon wave and get a base off. You can also use DMAT to like do those like trick shots where you DMAT the minion and hook through it. It's not bad. For this last trade, I think no matter what, you take Cosmic Insight. For the same reason why Lucidity Boots is so good on Thresh. You just really want that 18 Summoner Spell Haste. Yeah, for the flash cooldown. For a secondary tree, we're looking at Bone Plating or Second Wind in Resolve. I think Bone Plating against all-in lanes, Second Wind for poke is pretty straightforward. For this last tree, it's kind of you're just choosing between bad runes for him. I think Unflinching is probably the best out of these three, so that's why I have it marked here. It gives you a little bit of tenacity and slow resist. For the bottom part here, I think it's just good to go to Adaptive Force for that kill pressure. I mean, Thresh is really strong in lane, so you want to make sure you have those combat stats. If you do not go this and you're against like something you think you could die against, I think one armor, one MR is not a bad choice too. Yeah. But typically you want to go to Adaptive Force. Some other options you can consider are Guardian, something like this. Guardian is good for peeling your carry in kind of matchups where you think they can get all-in and die. And you can also consider Aftershock. Aftershock is good if you're in matchups where you think you get one shot. I think it's pretty rare, but specifically I think the Blitzcrank matchup, it's important to have this rune. Yeah, but typically Glacial Augment is better. And in terms of like secondary tree, you could consider Domination secondary and a Zombie Ward and Relentless Hunter. This is not a bad setup if you like to roam a lot. I think that about wraps it up for Thresh. I do have a cheat sheet for you guys in case you don't want to watch the whole video. Well, actually, it was at the end, but anyways, yeah. So definitely, if you want to come back here and reference the builds, you can just check out this cheat sheet and really quickly come up with your build. Yeah. So that about wraps up this video. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope you have learned how to build Thresh. Bye-bye.